Okay. Well, good morning, everybody.
Good
Good
morning.
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 Good morning.
Hope everybody's keeping cool because it's a little warm out there.
It is. I think it's going to be 89 today.
Yeah. I don't know. This global climate change, I don't think they got anything going there. Oof, it's hot. All right. Well, it is August and we're definitely feeling it. But let's enjoy our nice, refreshing air conditioning while we talk about our biggest passion for a lot of us, our computers, our phone, our technologies. All right. So what we have on plate today, I'm going to welcome everybody to the meeting. We're going to do some introductions. Kevin Richard has another excellent presentation for us, talking about Apple's Hide My Email, which is a phenomenal thing that you will, many of you probably don't know is already built in the system. Once you see what it can do, you may be taking big advantage of it. And then we'll end with a general Q&A. Get those questions that have been nagging me for the last 29 days since our last meeting.
74.
74.
Sorry,
So,
domestic conversation.
I thought it was just longer for you. That's all. So our steering committee, the goal of our steering committee is to guide this group to be what everybody wants it to be. And everybody has different desires for what they want the group to be. So please let us know what those desires are so we can accommodate as many of them as possible. Get you what you want out of this group. Make this group what we all need it to be. Matt Canizio, Matt, wait, there you go. Is David? I didn't see if David's on here. I didn't see him. Is David here today?
I'm here.
There he is. Good morning, David.
Good morning.
Eye candy. There you go. Terry Morris has been away for a while, and but he's still part of our steering committee, and he does periodically pop up and give us some useful information and help us when he can. We hope to see him come back soon. Marguerite Peterson. Marguerite, say hi.
Hello.
Marguerite. There she is. Ed Sheeran.
Everybody.
Jeanne Sparks. I saw Jeanne pop in earlier.
Yes, sir.
There she is. I am George Wagner, your current president until there's a coup. And then Bob popped in earlier. He had a conflict, so he had to head out. But if you have any questions, comments, compliments, criticisms, suggestions, these are the people to talk to. Let them know what you'd like to see, what you'd like to do. If you want to help out, we're more than happy to hand over the reins to someone else to do a presentation.
There.
I know
Why is it not on there?
I know a lot of people may not be comfortable doing the presentations, but may have ideas for presentations. That's fine too. Anything that you'd like to see, like to talk about, like to hear about, let us know. All right, now we'll get back to the meat and potatoes here. Our esteemed member Kevin Richards is going to be doing a presentation today on Apple's Hide My Email. So I'm going to hand the reins over to Kevin, and actually I probably need to let him share the screen. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing the screen, Kevin, and you can take over.
Right.
Hey, can I offer a little note of experience here? This week my iPhone fell down in my recliner and got inside the mechanism, and I've had that thing for 3 years. Never had a problem with it. Never covered it with a cover of any kind. When I took it out, the phone would work, but both sides of the glass were shattered. The back side of the glass was so shattered you could see the circuit card inside the phone, but it worked. So I bought a cheap cover, and I called Apple, and they said, "Mr. Day, that phone is 3 years old." They said, "You're way past warranty." They said, "But you have Apple Care service." I didn't even know I had it. They said, "You got Apple Care service. We're going to send you a new replacement phone." I couldn't believe it. And so here I am. a happy guy with a brand new phone and a trash one to send back, and it only cost me $5 a month. So this was a kind of a heads up. I have never done that before. Never bought that extra coverage, but I am so glad I did, and it's worth every penny. Thank you for letting me offer my advertisement.
I do recommend AppleCare for the mobile devices, the laptops, iPads, and iPhones, because they then tend to be more likely to take wear, tear, and damage or get lost.
Exactly.
The desktops aren't as important. It's a nice peace of mind to have, but they're not going to be in situations that they're going to take as likely to take damage. So I'm not as ardent on those. But the AppleCare is a pretty inexpensive option. Generally, it's less expensive than one service on a piece of equipment. So if you have one issue in 3 years, you've made your money back.
Well, I'll say.
And also what I've noticed that they've been doing is they offer two different service packages. You can get a limited time service, AppleCare service, but you can also pay a fee every month for the life of your phone. And it seems like that gives you a longer coverage. You're obviously paying more over time, but that sounds like what David had was a monthly charge that covered his phone. So
$5.
I am.
All
Great.
right. So
if
Kevin, go ahead
everybody,
and-
if everybody's ready, I'll go ahead and see if I can get everything up and running here. So let me share my screen first. Okay. I gotta get my notes up here. Okay, so can everybody see my screen okay?
I can.
Yes.
Looking good?
Yeah.
Okay. So today I'd like to introduce you to a tool that is available on all your Apple devices that'll help increase your online privacy, reduce spam or junk mail, and help keep you safer. But first, let's before we get into what Hide My Email is and how to use it, I want to talk about unsolicited email, or what we also know as spam or junk mail. So we'll just talk about that for a moment here. First of all, spam is incredibly annoying. I don't know anybody who enjoys dealing with spam. And if you're like me at different times in my years using computers, spam can just be, can inundate your box, your email box. So it's time consuming to sort through all your junk mail and make sure that legitimate mail messages didn't get misidentified as spam. And it takes time when you receive lots of spam every day to go through and verify. So and it also can be overwhelming. So oftentimes, I know for me, if there's too many spam in the junk mailbox, I would often just delete them all without really kind of going through them if it got too much. So I'm sure that other people probably do the same thing. And so you may be throwing away legitimate emails that will then start to get marked as spam. Although a lot of spam is benign, the more spam you get, it increases the chances of you receiving phishing attacks where you unknowingly give your username, password, or any other personal details to a stranger. Once you've disclosed your username, password, and other personal information, the potential for identity theft increases. So this is all to say that spam is bad. And so today we're going to talk about what our options are. Introducing Hide My Email. Apple launched Hide My Email. Now, I had some conflicting information on this, but what I found was that the Hide My Email feature came out with iOS 15 and Mac OS Monterey. And it was a way to increase online privacy and security. I saw something where also that somebody had mentioned that it came out in iOS 13, but I don't recall that. So we'll just keep it that if you're running iOS 15 and Mac OS Monterey, you've probably got Hide My Email as an option. Hide My Email lets you create unique random email addresses, letting you keep your personal email address private. It's built in to sign in with Apple and iCloud Plus. So let's talk about the difference between those two. Anybody who has an Apple ID can use sign in with Apple if it's offered as a sign-in option. It would appear alongside other sign-in options like Google or Facebook. And it's Hide My Email is built right into sign in with Apple. If you have an iCloud Plus account, that is any account that you pay for iCloud storage, you still have access to the sign in with Apple, which is free to everybody with an Apple ID. But additionally, you have Hide My Email available when you're creating a new account with an app or a website, when you're signing up for newsletters online, or even if you're just sending an email to someone that you don't know well. For those that have an Apple One of their service bundles that's offered as Apple One, the iCloud Plus is part of that. So you would have access to Hide My Email in these other website accounts, newsletters, and mail. So let's take a look at how to manually create a unique random email address on your iPhone first. Here, I'm running iOS 16. So first, you're going to tap on the settings icon. Everybody should know what that looks like. It's the little gear icon that's usually on your home screen. Once you're in settings, you're going to tap on your name at the top of the settings window. Next, you're going to tap on iCloud. And then you're going to go to the iCloud Plus section and tap on Hide My Email. Finally, you're going to tap on Create New Address to manually add a unique random email address. The window that comes up is going to automatically generate a unique random email for you. You can then label it. In this example here, I've labeled it B&H Photo. And I put a little note on there, Apple devices, where sometimes I purchase Apple devices. When you're finished adding a label and notes to it, you can go ahead and click Next or tap Next to save the address. When you're viewing all your random email addresses that you've created, you can edit or view the details of a specific address by tapping on that address. So for the example here, B&H Photo, if I've already created this in the past, I can go ahead and tap on it, and you're going to find the details for the address at the top, which are the title of it, the random email address that was generated at the time of creation, which you can't change once it's been created, and where the random email address forwards to. That's all displayed at the top. In the next section, you can edit the label or note. So if you want to change the label because it's not, you didn't find that you labeled it sufficient enough for you to remember what it is, or if you want to add some more notes to it, you can certainly do that. And then at the bottom, you have the option to deactivate the email address by tapping Deactivate Email Address. When you tap on the deactivate email address, you get a little notice that comes up, and you just tap on deactivate at that point. It will then put this email in an inactive address list. So again, going back to your list of random generated emails, you can scroll all the way to the bottom of the list, and there you can tap on forward to if you want to change the address where the random email address is, you know, which address that comes to. And if you want to, you know, later on reactivate or delete a deactivated email address, you can tap on the inactive addresses to view a list of all inactive email addresses. And then when you do that, you can go ahead and either reactivate the address or delete the address if you're never going to use it again. Any questions up to this point from anybody?
Sandy had one. She was asking if this it's creating an email for every address. I'll let you.
If it's creating an email for every, I'm not sure I understand.
I think she's thinking that this is going the other direction, that this is an address to somebody else. What I think she's asking is that she didn't do this for every address. What this is doing is giving a substitute email address for someone to use so they don't see your real email address. And if that is that what you're asking, Sandy?
I get that. I guess I just had trouble following because Kevin, you do a wonderful job, but I couldn't keep up with all the steps. So once you see this, you know, substitute email from there, I didn't see the prompt.
Yeah, so what I'm talking about here, Sandy, is actually manually creating one. This is different than when you go to a place and it automatically offers it. And I'm going to show that in a demo. But the process.
I use the other Kevin all the time.
Use the.
Yeah, I let them create well, no, I'm talking about passwords now. I let them create that crazy password, and
right. That's for your Safari.
Use password and settings. I love it.
Right. So this is going to be for times that you're. So if there are websites, the best example for me is there are times that I go onto a website that maybe they have something that they're offering, and they want my email address. But I don't know anything about this company. I don't know if they sell my email address. I don't want to start getting spam from a bunch of different companies that I didn't agree to knowingly. So in that instance, I might use the hide my email address. There are a couple of ways to do that. Automatically, when you go and on the website and you start to put in your, you know, you click into the field where it says email, you'll get an option there for using hide my email.
Okay.
And that's different than what I'm talking about right here. What I'm talking about here is if you manually want to create it first before going to one of these websites. And that's not going to happen too often. But the reason I wanted to do this is because I wanted you to be familiar with where these things are found. So if people need me to, I can go back and just run through these steps again. It's important that you understand where to find these emails once they've been created. So let me just go back here for a minute.
As an example, this is really handy if like you're going on Craigslist or Marketplace or somewhere and somebody's selling something and you want them to be able to contact you, but once you're done with this transaction, you never want to hear from them again.
Yeah, exactly.
So you do this per website. It's not.
You do this right, correct, per website. You don't create one random alias.
I thought that's the way it was designed,
right.
To do one.
What's great about that concept is that if you down the road decide that one website you no longer want to deal with, you can disable that email address without it affecting anything else.
Right.
If you were using, like I have email alias addresses that automatically forward to my Apple ID address. And that was offered as part of Mobile Me back when that first started. It's still offered now. You can create a few alias email addresses, and those are fine. And I use those rather than using my real email address, my real Apple ID address. But if I use that for multiple places and I start getting a bunch of spam on it, I don't have a lot of options. I can't control that one place I'm getting the spam from. If I create a unique email address for that, a random unique email address, I can then deactivate it, as George had said, and then I don't have to get email from that particular one. It really isolates who's sending you stuff, and it makes it easy for you to know who's, you can look up which address you're getting a spam from and see, who's been selling your information. So I find it very helpful.
And keep in mind, once he goes through the automated part, which is where 90% of the time you're going to be in, it's very quick and easy for them to automatically create this email address. You don't even have to really pay attention to what it is, because it's going to come to your real email. The only time you'll care about what it is if you start getting spam. Then you can see which one it is and turn it off. Which
is why I'm kind of going through these steps here, is because this is what I'm demonstrating right now. This being able to manually create a random email address is the same way to go and look at all the email addresses that have been created for you when you're using the more automated, on a website. So again, once you've tapped on settings, you'll go ahead and tap on your Apple ID at the top, tap on iCloud, and then down in the iCloud Plus section, you'll see hide my email. And this is where you're going to find all the email addresses that have been, that you've either randomly created by your, manually, or that have been done as part of the automated process. So when we go in and we take a look at this, let's look at this list for a moment. The top one is aldi.us. You can see it says here from Safari underneath that. And from Safari tells me that this was one that I generated on the website. Okay, if you look at the B&H photo, which is a further down the list, that says from settings. And from settings means that I manually created it. And then I plugged it into the website after the fact. And the one that says artifact near the fourth one down, that says from sign in with Apple. So that was
computer.
That's a situation where I was given the option to be able to sign in with Apple as opposed to giving them my email address and creating a password. When I signed in with Apple, it generated a random unique email that was associated with that's associated with that website, and it generated a password or a pass key, something behind the scenes to identify me. So go ahead, George.
I was going to say, one thing that is very important to note. One of the reasons that Apple did this sign in with Apple is because Google and Facebook have their sign in functions, which it's easy, it's quick, you don't think about it, but they are selling your information. That gives them access to more information about you that they can then sell and market. Apple does not market information. They were kind of annoyed by this because it was so easy. People were just doing it without thinking. So they came up with this that gives you that same convenience, but with the added security and privacy that Apple has been prided themselves on for years.
So does everybody understand how to get to all your random email addresses that have been generated, either that you've done manually or that you've done through Safari or the sign in with Apple? So you can find that list here.
Kevin, what if you have never done this before? So they've assigned me an iCloud email address. That's all
Right.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just hit continue. Is that right?
You mean at the
On this page right here that you're on now,
Okay.
hide my email. All I have is my the one they've assigned me.
Okay, so you don't have anything in a list.
I don't.
Okay, so when we get to the demo part, I'll show you how to start using it, and then your list will start getting populated with the different ones. Obviously, if you want to create one, you can go to this particular page and tap create new address. Okay. That'll allow you to generate one manually that you can then use on a particular website. So, or to email somebody. But again, a lot of that is automated. So I rarely create one manually. I did today or yesterday, just as a way to kind of get in here and show things and how it's done. But typically, the only reason for me to come in here and access this list is if I'm starting to get spam from somebody and I want to turn it off. I basically come in, find the email address or find the company that I've created it, on their website, and then deactivate it.
Okay, thank you.
Which is the steps here. So if we skip over to this one, if let's say I started getting a bunch of spam from B&H Photo, I would know that because it would be coming into my email account to this address, decking_0_violas@icloud.com. That's the generated email address. And if I started getting a bunch of spam to that address, I can come in here and deactivate this email address.
8285.
Okay.
Thank you, Kevin. Okay.
All right. So, and if you can change the forward to email address. I changed it. It was originally to my Apple ID, and I changed it here to for this example, for these screenshots, I changed it to an email address that I use just kind of for junky stuff that I had created on Gmail. And then if you have, an inactive email address, then you can reactivate it if you decide to start, receiving email from that particular one, or delete it. I have deleted emails in the past that I know I'm not going to use any longer. Okay. So let's take a look at hide my email on iPad OS. Just like on the iPhone, you access hide my email by tapping on settings, then Apple ID, then iCloud, and finally hide my email. That's going to give you your list again of all the addresses that have been generated for you, or that you've done manually. The hide my email window in iPad OS will look slightly different than on your iPhone. It's got a side-by-side view. So here's what that's going to look like. And this is on an iPad running iPad OS 16. So you can see my Apple ID on the left column at the top that I've tapped on. And then I went through and tapped on iCloud and hide my email to get to this.
1828577.
And all the creating, editing, viewing random email addresses, this is all done the same way as what we covered on the iOS. Changing the forward to address or viewing inactive email address is also done the same exact way. So it's going to be a pretty similar experience for you. On Mac OS, it's going to look, again, if you're running Mac OS Ventura, which is what I'm running, it's going to look very similar. You're going to access it by tapping on settings. If you have Monterey or before, it's called preferences, system preferences, as opposed to settings. In Mac OS Ventura, they changed the system preferences wording to settings, and now it's getting close to to feeling like you're on your iPhone or iPad. So you'll access it the same way. And then it's going to be slightly different. Here's what it looks like. You're going to have a list of your random generated emails on the left column, And on the right, when one is highlighted, you're going to have the details of it, where you can, here a little different, you can copy the email if you need to paste it into something. You can change the label and change the note or deactivate. To change the address where your random email address forwards to, or to view a list of inactive addresses, you'll need to click on the down arrow next to the gear at the bottom of your list of random addresses on the left column. So down here at the bottom, there's a little gear there with the down arrow. If you click on that, you can then go ahead and change the forward to or the inactive email. So at this point, what I'd like to do is show you how to use these. But at this point, I'm going to ask if I can, George, to go ahead and pause the recording. And so we can take questions and talk a little bit more about, you know, anything regarding hide my email at this point. And then we can get into other general question and answers after this.
One thing I will want to comment on, the thing about Apple that's always been one of their strengths is that they have various technologies that work so well together. So the hide my email is a wonderful feature, but combine that with the password generation that they have, and basically it makes it even better, because the whole sign in with Apple takes the two parts together as one, does it in one step.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely find it very helpful to have hide my email. Again, I'm not using it every day, but I find it very a real useful tool to help minimize spam. So.
And for those of you who aren't aware, on your iOS device, if you go into settings and down to password, you can look up any saved password.
Yeah, and the same on your Mac OS as well. You go into system preferences or settings if you're running Ventura, and again, you can go, you can look up passwords there, or you can do it right through Safari. You can look up your passwords by going to preferences or settings in Safari. So you can always access those random long passwords that Safari suggests. You don't have to worry about, oh my God, it's going to suggest it, and I got to write it down. You don't have to; it'll remember it.
And you can copy from there and paste it in, so you don't have to type it in ever.
Right, and as long as you're syncing all your devices through your iCloud account, whatever you generate for a unique password or a hide my email on one device will show up on all your other devices and be available to you on those devices. So it really is convenient.
May I ask a mundane question?
Sure.
How do you set up the sign in with Apple?
If you have an Apple ID, you don't have to set it up. You simply, when you go to a website, not all websites offer sign in with Apple. You may go to a website and it'll say, you know, enter an email address and generate a, you know, come up with a password, or it might have, you know, in addition to that, you know, sign in with Google or sign in with Facebook, but it may not have sign in with Apple. If you do see sign in with Apple, then that's available to you and it's using hide my email in the background.
Thank you.
I have
There's a few
question.
resources for people if they want to. I know these email addresses are long. I'm going to go ahead and send a PDF file to George on this presentation. So they'll be available here. But if you go to apple.com or support.apple.com, you can find guides for the iPhone, iPad, and the Mac. And they have sections that talk about hide my email address. So you can get more details there if you need to. And certainly a search on the internet would be helpful as well.
Kevin, I have a question.
I'm just looking at my saved passwords on my iPhone,
Uh-huh.
and I have an account, or I'm signed into chat GTP. It does not show up on my list, and that is one where I had the computer generate the password for me. It is listed under my generated passwords, but it is not listed under the list of passwords on my iPhone. And so therefore this list doesn't appear to be complete.
Did you do the Chat GPT through Safari, or did you do it through like Firefox?
Safari.
Because I tried to set up an account with Chat GPT through Safari, and I could never I couldn't do it. It wouldn't accept it. When I went to Firefox, it worked fine. Now that's not going to save it in my keychain, so I don't have my Chat GPT login details in my keychain because I didn't use Safari to set it up.
Well,
I
keep in-
never used Firefox, so I had to do it through Safari, and it's working fine. And before in your presentation, I checked, and it was listed under hide my email list, but it is not listed here under password saved in the settings of the phone.
It might be in the Safari saved passwords, which doesn't make it to the keychain, which may not get synced to the other devices.
You want me to remember all that at this age?
No, and the thing that you said to me, you saw it in hide my email, is that correct?
Yes.
And if you see it in hide my email in the list of random things, does it say sign in with Apple?
I didn't check that part. I just noticed that it was there.
So if you see it there, look underneath the Chat GPT name and see if it says Safari or sign in with Apple. You know, if it says sign in with Apple, then you're not going to see a password. Whether you look in, you know,
even though it was a computer generated, that I do remember, it was
You
a
do.
computer generated password.
yeah, well, then it
Chat.
you should have saved it, but
Well, I'm not going to tie you up until I find this thing again, but I would. It's just not under passwords, is what I'm
Got
trying to say.
got it.
Marguerite, I've had the same experience where I had a generator, excuse me, I let it generate one and it wasn't put in my chain for some reason. And I don't know if I wasn't using Firefox, but I may have been using the Chrome browser. But I've had it.
I have seen it where the browsers store the passwords locally and they don't use the keychain.
Right.
I've seen that in Chrome, Opera, and Firefox.
Right. They sort of come up with their own little prompt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's becoming an annoyance to me because I'll have that and I'll go to my iPhone and the password's not there, and then I gotta go look it up and re-enter it, and it takes that simplicity and puts a monkey wrench in it.
And for the life of me, I don't remember why I was using Chrome, and why, those websites have my password stored in Chrome and not my keychain. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you can turn off the browser's safe password function, and if you do that, it should revert to using the keychain.
The only thing I could think of is I was using Chrome on my Windows machine, and I believe Chrome will sync.
Yeah, it does have that option.
Yeah, that's the only thing I could think of.
See, that Windows just makes everything more difficult,
Yeah. No, I mean, there's no need to go outside of Safari for any reason.
Well, thanks everybody for attending and letting me do this presentation for you. If there's no more questions, then I'll turn it back over to George and stop sharing my screen.
Thank you,
Thank
Kevin.
you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Kevin, I'm sorry, I just found it. My Chat GTP is from Sign In with Apple, and it shows my fake email address, but it does not show me the funny password that it created.
No, if you do sign in,
won't.
you won't see a password any place in your password keychain.
Okay.
As far as I know, George, am I correct in saying that?
To be honest with you, I don't know for sure. I have to test. I haven't used the sign with Apple that much, so I haven't tested that out.
Yeah, whenever I've signed in with Apple, when I go to the website, it automatically plugs in the information that's needed. When I, re-click on sign in again with Apple, it fills in what I had created from the original time. And I've never seen it listed any place, a password that I could actually see.
Okay. But it does not list it under my passwords and setting. It only listed under hide my email.
Right. Because it's sign in with Apple, again, my experience is I've never seen the passwords listed under passwords. It only saves, it's like behind the scenes. You don't see it.
Okay.
So you wouldn't be able to go to a different computer, somebody else's like Windows machine, and sign in with Apple because it's not available on that machine. It's only going to be available on your devices.
Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Kevin,
Yes.
I have a question. My memory's a little short. Could you go over again if you already have passwords and you wanted to sign in with Apple? Are they going to change it or use the password that you have?
Okay. Yep.
So
I'm gonna.
if you have an account already set up with a company, and then you log out of your account and you come back to the account and you choose sign in with Apple instead, you're basically creating a new account. And all your account history and details is in that original one. You can't switch over to sign in with Apple after the fact. You may be able to, as George said, you may be able to use hide my email, and change the email address in which where all the correspondence come, but without losing that account history, so you can't just sign in with Apple as an alternative.
Okay, so basically, I'm stuck with the ones that I've already done.
Yes.
Thanks. Okay.
Which is fine, just moving forward. If it offers sign in with Apple, it's certainly more convenient to do it that way and let it remember for you. If in fact that the passwords are not being shown, there are some places where I like to know that I can see the password and retrieve it. So if Marguerite is having an issue, and I'm going to need to check on some of mine and see whether if I go into the ones that I've used sign in with Apple, see if I can actually find a password someplace on my computer that I can actually access and see. So I will do that after this presentation.
Yeah, but Kevin, I wrote that thing down.
I know you did, yes. So it's interesting that it was generated in that yeah. So I know for me personally, when I try to do the chat GPT on Safari, that I had issues with. I could not get Safari to go through that process of setting up an account. So I had to switch over to a different browser, and Firefox seems to work fine for me with the chat GPT. So
is that how you created this presentation?
some of it, yeah. No, not all of it, not the content, but the descriptions that I send you, George, at the beginning. I usually go into chat GPT and give it a bunch of prompts and then narrow it down to come up with something that is writing a little paragraph. So yeah, I find it helpful for certain things like that. Or even if I'm doing a presentation, I might ask it for an outline and then look at some of the points, and then I develop it myself. So I use it as a guide more than anything else.
I love my chat GPT. It has written some really super stuff for me. It really has.
Yeah.
Much better than I could ever do.
Yeah.
George, I have a more general question.
What's that?
My comment at the beginning of the meeting was about this sad state of affairs that I have, because I've got an iPhone, a brand new iPhone that was sent to me as a replacement. And when it came, the operating system on it was older than Apple supports anymore. So I could not do the automatic copying from, one from my current iPhone to a new iPhone, because it would not boot up. In other words, it told me the operating system that's on your new computer, we don't support that anymore. So I haven't been through this before. I went ahead and upgraded the new phone to the latest operating system. So I've got two iOS 16 phones sitting next to each other. I should be able to somehow trigger the transfer starting from the old phone to the new phone. I can't figure out how to do that.
If you go into settings,
Yeah,
go into general, there's a reset and transfer.
okay. I do that, and the screen is frozen. It won't tap anything. And I can't figure out how to reboot it.
Well, the other option is, do you have the old phone backed up?
Oh yeah,
Restore that back up to the new phone.
to the new phone.
Yeah.
That's all I gotta do.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll give that a shot, George. Thank you.
You're welcome. The quickest way of doing it, is that an iCloud backup or on the machine?
iCloud.
Okay. So yeah, if you do that restore, that should bring everything back where it was, and then download new versions of the apps, and it should be good to go.
All right, good. Thanks, George.
You're welcome.
I've got a question. If I don't know if anybody's run into the situation, it's something new for me in the last 3 nights. Normally for me, when I step away from my computer, my screen locks, and then if I want to come back, I go ahead and just use my Touch ID to log back in to my computer. And I leave my computer on and maybe restart it or shut it down once a week or so. If something starts acting weird, I might shut it down a little more frequently. So the last 3 nights, I go away from my computer for the night. The screen locks. I get up in the morning, and several of my apps that I left running are automatically quit. My mail, an accounting software, several other, my keynote presentation that I had been working on for the last few days, everything is quit in the morning, and that's never happened before. I'm wondering if anybody has run into apps sort of randomly quitting. It seems to be the same ones, and I don't know. I've tried to do some research this morning and couldn't figure out what was happening. So has anybody experienced that?
Have you been having any power issues?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, there could be at night, but I have an app that I use that's a different accounting. So I have 2 different accounting softwares, one for work and one for personal. And the accounting software that I use for work, if that one does not automatically quit, I have to, it'll stop a shutdown because it's running in a Windows shell on my machine, because it's not a native Mac app. So it kind of freezes any shutdown process if I don't quit it properly. So that's still running in the morning. But my email, my keynote, my other apps just seem to be quit.
Two things that pop into my head. If there's a power fluctuation and the machine loses power and it's set to auto restart after power failure, do you have it set to automatically open the things that were open when you shut down?
No.
Okay. Did you at some point maybe have that on?
No, I don't typically do that. And like I said,
I'm sorry. the reason I asked this, I have seen it where it has a saved state from
Right.
before, and that's what it's opening up into. The other option is that if your app is set, if it's running in a Windows shell, the state of the app in the shell would be saved when the shell shut down. So if it came back up, it should be back where it was, where the other ones may not.
Well, if it shuts down, the only way to get back in is to enter a password. It's password protected. So, and that's not the case when I click on it in the morning, it's running just fine as if no power had changed, because if the Wi-Fi drops, then that app will automatically disconnect because it's running through the internet. So it's a weird thing. I've like I said, I've never seen it, and I can't figure out if I've done some. I haven't done anything different in the last few days.
Have you checked the error logs?
No.
I wanted to see if there was some issue that's going on.
Okay. Thank you.
Well,
Hey, Kevin, just
Yeah.
comment on what you all are talking about. We have dirty power in this area, and as a result, I run everything through a battery that comes into my computer. Nothing, I'm not hooked into the mains at all. The mains come to the battery stays powered, and so I don't have that issue anymore.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm not thinking that this is a power issue, simply because, like I said, if it were a power issue, that software, my accounting software, would not stay logged in. You know, again, this is a laptop, so it would be on battery, you know, for a good chunk of time. So it's something else is causing these, and it seems to be like mail and Keynote. No, I haven't been. Keynote is something that I've started using, you know, just I've used it in the past, but I started using it again the last few days to do the presentation. I have noticed that when I've tried to start up Keynote, that I can't open the file. It's taking forever to open the file. So I'm not sure what, you know, there's something weird going on. I tried you know, repairing my hard drive this morning, and I'll check and see if anything. It didn't find any errors, but I'll see if it continues.
if the file is having trouble opening, that usually indicates that there's some errors in the file itself, which also often happens when the file's been shut down improperly.
Right.
So if the program did quit unexpectedly, that would kind of put some junk into the file.
That would explain that.
What you might want to do on that file is basically, you know, maybe just do a select all, copy those slides, paste it into a new fresh one, and see if that issue goes away.
Okay, thanks. I'll try that.
Kevin, I have noticed all these anomalies come up in the past 4 or 5 days. Mail especially. I got up this morning and I'm getting 500 to 600 mails a day. And today I had none. And yesterday I had 5. And of course they come in jammed in the rest of the day. But it's never done that before. So I've also had the delayed file lookup thing. You sit there and the wheel goes and goes and goes and nothing ever comes up. So it's I don't know where it is, but I tend to think it's something in the software, the recent upgrade.
Okay. I do have a PSA. If anybody, I just read this article recently, if anybody is running Night Owl, it was an app that helped you to switch between light mode and dark mode on your computer or device. And I've just recently read that somebody bought that company, and they've put in some code in there that's like malware code. So that Night Owl app should be deleted if you've got it. I'll try to go on the Facebook page and post the article on there.
Any other questions?
Yes, I have a question. For one of our fellow residents here who has an iPhone, and I have an iPhone, when we text, her messages come up green.
Huh.
I've tried resetting everything in her phone, including do not send SMS, and yet the messages are still green. There's something not quite it for you, Kevin. It's Leslie. There's something wrong with the settings on her phone, and I don't know where to look. If somebody can help me out on that.
First thing, is it green for everybody? Or is it just your conversation with her?
I haven't asked her to show me her phone. I just know that my messages to her are green. And yet my messages to anyone else with an iPhone are blue, as they should be.
Okay. On her phone, if nobody is blue, then she may not actually be logged into iMessage in the messaging app.
She may be logged into iMessage.
She may not be logged in. So if you go into settings and go to messages, there's actually an option to log into your Apple ID within the messages app. You can be logged into your Apple ID on the device, but not necessarily in the messaging app.
Okay.
And that may be it may be as simple as that. Hopefully it is.
Okay, I'll check because I have to see her in a few minutes anyway. Okay, log in. Will do. Thank you.
And if she is, try turning that off and then back on and see if that gets her back in.
Okay, I have turned on and off just about everything in her settings on her messages, but I'll try it again. Okay, thank you.
Cool.
I got a question. My wife and I both have iPhone 11 Pros. And for some reason, my wife's contacts on her phone have disappeared. They're showing up on her computer, but there's nothing on her iPhone. I've not had a problem with mine, and I looked on Google how to get the settings back on her phone, but unsuccessfully. So she's had to type in the contacts on her phone manually. Now she still has a lot of them. She's only done a few for when we travel, but I don't know if she still has all the contacts on her iMac, but I'm not sure how to get them on her phone. Or
if they're on her iMac, which the first thing you want to check is log into iCloud.com, log into her email, her ID, and see if the contacts show up there.
in the iCloud.
And the iCloud. If they're in the iCloud, that means the computer is talking to the iCloud and they're in sync. That means the phone is not. If they're not in the cloud, that means the computer is not syncing up to the cloud. So all those contacts that are in the computer aren't making their way to the cloud, which would make their way to the phone.
Okay.
If they are in the cloud, make sure that her contact is syncing is turned on in her iCloud settings on her phone.
Okay, on the phone.
Right. If that is checked, one thing I have seen sometimes is people will go into the contacts and they'll be looking at a group and not looking at all the contacts. So make sure that you're looking at all iCloud.
Yeah.
Okay.
So those would be the most common things. If you go through all that and it doesn't fix the problem, you either email me or give me a call. We'll go next step.
Okay. Thank you.
So any other questions?
Hey, this is Ken. Actually, I have a comment. If you think you have any privacy, I'm going to tell you what happened to me this week and tell you you absolutely do not have any privacy. I signed up for Kindle publishing, Amazon's Kindle publishing, and one of the things that you have to do is do a W-9. And so I did the W-9, I put my name there, and then I put my social security number, but I made a slight error in the social security number, and it popped up and said, this is not your social security number. Now, how Amazon Kindle already knew that, I don't know, and why they wasted my time making me fill it out again. But then the same thing happened, or something similar happened yesterday. I got a new credit card in the mail. I activated the credit card with where you extend the date and you get a new security thing and all that. And it also happened to be the one that I use when I buy from Amazon. So I said, well, I'll go in there and change all that information with Amazon. And this is 20 minutes after I'd activated the card. You know where this story is going. I went in there. Amazon had already figured it out. They had the new expiration date, the new security code, and everything. So
That's
if
it.
you've
That's a
got
feature.
any privacy, forget it, folks.
Ken, that's a feature. That's a feature of Visa, Visa MasterCard, where they're starting to transition over to, if your number stays the same, but the expiration date and the CVV code change, they automatically push that out to vendors that have your old information, so that it automatically updates.
Oh my God.
It's a feature, not a bug.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
an
that one.
enhancement.
That second one that you're talking about, Ken, is certainly one that I've heard about. I heard about this happening about a year ago, that they were going to start pushing that out, and that you won't have to go ahead and automatically, update all those websites that you have your card stored in, and that Visa would do it for you. So, so that's a feature of your credit card.
Well, I think I like it, but I'm not really sure, frankly.
That's the case with a lot of these things. It's convenient, but is it safe?
Yeah.
Right.
It's best not to think too hard on these things.
Well, and the other part of that equation is, I don't think he would have been as concerned if it had been anybody other than Amazon,
Yeah.
Yeah.
On that
I may
point-
have missed a meeting, but what do we know about the iPhone 15 and when is it coming out?
Well, coming out is probably going to be September, October. That's the typical time frame.
Okay.
I haven't heard a lot of details. Matt, you tend to follow a lot of those. Have you heard any?
It's all over the place again. It's almost as though Apple is putting out some phony information. All these dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of people are trying to make a living reporting on Apple rumors and Apple features and all that sort of stuff. And it's getting so that, 1 week that this feature is going to be in it, and then the next week they backtrack and, oh no, they're not doing that feature. So I can't tell you exactly. I will tell you that the highest end models, of course, will have features that the lower ends don't have, to do with the cameras. And also, how you have your buttons on the side of the phone. One's a mute button. That's going to change to something else where you could program what that does. That's a feature a lot of people have agreed upon. Talking about using titanium instead of steel, thinner bezels. But I don't even know how many models is going to be. It's going
The only thing I have been hearing fairly consistently is that this will be finally the one that has the new design, physical design. They've been talking about that for a while, and the 13 came out, the 14 came out, and they really used the same design as the previous ones. This one I've heard is supposed to have somewhat of a redesign finally.
also, it'll have USB-C instead of the Lightning. But again, the rumors are that the lower line, just the plain old 15, is going to have a very slow one, but the Pro Max or the Pro whatever it is going to have a very fast one. That's been going up and down with the rumor mill. But for people like us, I don't think the speed is going to be an issue no matter which model we get.
I have heard that the date for the Apple event introducing the iPhone 15 is the 12th or 13th, with the launch date on the 22nd of September. That's the latest that I've heard.
Yeah, and that's typical time frame for them. They want to get it out early enough that they'll have a good quantity out there by the holidays.
Can I come back to the question of security? One of the things that I'm fascinated by is that shield that Safari offers in the toolbar at the top. If you're on a website that you don't often go to, if you click on that shield, anytime you want to click on it, you click on that shield, it'll tell you how many organizations are tracking you at this moment. My highest number thus far has been 73. I don't know who they are, but somebody's trying to track me when I go to certain websites. If you go to Google, it's 1 as a rule. Chat GTP is 0. I just find it fascinating to see how many trackers are trying to watch me when I'm on a website. I don't know if they can gather any information, but the fact that there's so many of them tracking, I think it's fascinating.
One thing, Apple's been very big on limiting tracking. There is a requirement now in the iOS devices. They have to ask to track. And the problem that I've run into is some mischievous companies like Facebook don't give you a no option. So the message doesn't go away unless you say yes. Now, the best way to avoid this, and actually I recommend this anyways, is if you go into the settings, you can basically tell the system to not allow apps to ask, which means they can't track you. They can't even ask to track you. You're not disturbed by that question at any point in time. And then the programs like Facebook that are trying to circumvent it can't. Let me real quick get you to, I used the search to find out where that was before. Let me get you the steps to get to it. Hang on just a second here. Okay, it's in settings, privacy and security. And then
Tracking.
and then tracking, yeah. And then there's the option at the very top says allow apps to request to track. Just turn that off. They can't even ask, so they won't track. They can't track you.
Now, when they ask you if you go onto a site and they ask you if you will allow them to identify your location or not, I always check, do not identify my location unless it has to do with a mapping type thing where it's beneficial.
Yeah.
Does that help the tracking part also?
Well, that's a different type of tracking. The first tracking is they're tracking which websites you're going to and that type of thing. So it's not your physical location. The location tracking is basically like if you want to go see a movie, if you have your location service on, it can find the theaters that are near you, that type of thing. So the two separate tracking, but tracking your location is something that some companies are doing for ad purposes as well. I'm the same as you. I turn it off whenever possible. Now on the iOS devices, if you pull down to see your control center, it will show at the very top what apps are using what services, like location services and things that are going to drain your battery or use your private information. So if you pull down at the very top, it'll have any app that has a little arrow by it. It'll show you that it's tracking your location. Most of the apps that I use that track location are set to do it only when the app is running. So my location service is usually not showing anything unless I have my map actively going in the background.
Well, somebody sold my location to eGolf here in Brevard, the car dealer, because every time I watch a YouTube video, guy pops up trying to sell me cars or come in or whatever it is. And so I don't know what happened there, but YouTube got it.
Well, it may not be that they have your particular location, but by tracking information about your connection, they can get a general idea of what vicinity you're in, so that the ads can be more localized.
So if they can tell you're connecting through Comporium,
yeah,
and they're going to see that, oh, let's push out ads for Brevard area,
Right.
or this area in Western North Carolina.
Well,
If you use I'm sorry.
I was just going to say that guy's on every single, no matter what I'm watching, he pops up, no matter what it is.
Now, if you use VPN or I think Apple's
Private relay.
Private relay, I think if you use one of those two things, that will basically obscure where you are.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't. So your ads would be more general.
I'm pulling down my controls panel on my phone and I don't see what apps are tracking me.
You may not have any of the tracking right now.
Okay.
George,
Well,
I've never seen that, and I'm always pulling it down.
Well, the best way to do it is open your map app up and then pull it down. You'll see at the top there, it'll just have, it's above all the icons. It's just a little line that'll show the little arrow symbol and then the apps that are actively using it.
Google Maps. That's what's tracking.
And it should. And that's fine. And that's the key, is when you see that on an app, you say, why is that app tracking my location? Yeah. And then what you can do is go into settings, privacy, and location services, and then turn it off for that app. Or change it to be only when active, or ask. You have several options you can do. Always, only when app is active, or ask me. And if you do ask me, every time it comes up and it wants to use it, it'll have to ask.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
No,
Okay, well, I think we'll call it a day then. Thank everybody for coming.
thank you.
Thank you,
Nice
Kevin.
seeing everybody again.
Yeah.
And I'll see everybody
Bye.
next month.
See ya.
Thanks again, Kevin.
You're
Bye.
welcome.
Yes, thank you, Kevin.